Welcome back to my channel where your nightmares become reality. This happened many years ago when I was still quite young. I had just finished high school and I was very excited to start college. On the day that I moved into my dorm room, I met my roommate. He was nice enough, a bit quiet, but we got along well enough. I was sitting on my bed trying to read, but I couldn't focus. My eyes kept drifting to my roommate, who was making those crinkling noises again. Suddenly, without thinking about it, I yelled at him, "Why won't you just tell me what's going on?" He stopped making noises and turned to look at me. For a moment, he just stared at me. I got out of bed again and went over to my roommate. This time, he was sitting in the fetal position. I tried to wake him up, but he didn't respond. Down the hall and into the janitor's closet, I emptied the garbage can and tried to clean myself up a bit. At this point, I was panicking. What was I gonna do? How was I gonna explain this? But when I got back to the room, it was empty except for a single sheet of paper on his bed. I picked it up and read, "He died 3 days ago. I felt sick." So my roommate had been dead for 3 days. How could I not have known? Had he always been dead? Was that why he never ate or drank? Why did he never respond when I talked to him? Why did he never leave the room? Why did he touch me? My hands were shaking as I tried to tie my shoes. He couldn't. He was tied to the bed. I tore the covers off of the mattress to find the truth, but when I did, I found only more questions. The bed was empty. Where was he? Where was my roommate? I screamed for help, but no one came. I don't remember what happened after that. All I know is that I'm still looking for my roommate to this day. I knew that I had to get out of there. I called his name, but he didn't answer. I checked his neck for a pulse, but there was nothing. I don't want to be too dramatic, but I knew in my heart that he was dead. Then he slowly got off of his bed and walked over to mine. First things first, I needed to get his body off of my bed. With great difficulty, I managed to drag him out of the room and down the hallway. I kept replaying the events of the last few days in my head over and over again. Had I known that he was dead all along? Had I been sitting next to a corpse for days? What was he doing in my room? Questions that I didn't want answers to? I pushed open the door to the first room that I came across and hid his body inside. Then I ran back to my room to come up with a plan. I knew that I couldn't keep his body in the room that I shared with him, but I also knew that I couldn't move it. I was too scared. I paced around the room, frantically searching for an answer when suddenly I saw it, my roommate's bed. Why hadn't I thought of this before? I stripped all of the bedding off of his bed and put the mattress on the floor. I then dragged his body over to it and hid it underneath. I knew that I could move the mattress back onto the bed later, but for now, I needed to get rid of the evidence. He reached out and touched my arm. I flinched at the touch, but he didn't say anything. He just walked back to his bed and continued making those crinkling noises. We both settled into our separate sides of the room and started getting ready for bed. It was then that I noticed something odd about him. He didn't say anything, but he did give me a small smile, which I took as a good sign. Later that day, I came back to the dorm room to find that my roommate had left his bed and was standing in front of the window. For the first time, he was actually dressed in clothes other than his uniform. He was wearing a dark gray hoodie and black sweatpants. When he saw me, he quickly went back to his bed and started making those crinkling noises again. I wasn't going to let him hide from me. I climbed over the partition that separated our beds and onto his side. He immediately tried to push me off, but I held on. Instead of changing into a pair of pajamas or boxers, he just sat there on his bed fully clothed. Terrified, I finally let go of him and scrambled back to my own side of the bed. To my horror, my roommate was still on his bed, but he wasn't moving. He was staring straight ahead with a blank expression on his face. His eyes were wide open. I tried to get closer, but as soon as I did, the shuffling began again, and I ran back to my bed. The crinkling noises stopped. I wanted to call out to him, but I was too scared. I spent the whole night huddled under my blankets, listening to the crinkling noises. Every time that I tried to get out of bed to go to the bathroom, he would make the scrunching sound and I would hurry back to my bed and hide. I asked him if he was sure that he didn't want to change, and he just gave me a weird look and said, "I'm fine." So I just shrugged and went to sleep. Well, I woke up at around 2 a.m. for no apparent reason. And when I opened my eyes, I saw that my roommate was still sitting on his bed, fully clothed, just staring at the ceiling. I assumed that maybe he was just an extremely light sleeper and was now awake because I had made some noise. But this wasn't the case. As I went back to sleep and woke up again at around 6 a.m., he was still sitting there, still fully clothed, still staring at the ceiling. Now it was starting to freak me out a little. But when I went to class that day and came back, he was still there. I got worried. Was he planning to sit there forever? Would he ever take a break? What if he needed to use the toilet? Was he planning to soil himself? I decided that I needed to talk to him about this. But when I tried to bring it up, he just told me that he was fine and that I shouldn't worry about it. So I dropped the subject. However, I couldn't help but notice that he never ate. Whenever I ordered pizza, I would watch him stare longingly at it before telling me that he wasn't hungry. He also never drank water, which I thought was kind of strange considering that he never seemed to leave the room. He must have been dehydrated, but he insisted that he was fine. Then there were the sounds. In the middle of the night, I would often hear noises coming from his side of the bed. It sounded like someone shuffling around inside of a plastic bag, like crinkling noises. Sometimes I would hear a thump followed by a soft thud. I never dared to ask him about these sounds. One evening, I got so fed up with him refusing to answer any of my questions that I did something stupid. The next day, I felt terrible about how I had treated him, so I apologized. As he struggled to get me off, I noticed that his skin was freezing cold. When the morning finally came, I cautiously climbed out of bed. I don't know how long I stayed there, but eventually the shuffling stopped. I was terrified. What should I do? I ran to the bathroom and splashed water on my face. I needed to think clearly. I stuffed the bedding into a garbage can and wheeled it out of the room. I wandered around the campus for hours, not knowing where I was going. I couldn't believe what had happened. Eventually, I made my way back to the dorm. I needed to see his body one last time. And then it hit me, the reason why he never left the room.